So my name is Nick Frias, and we're doing a project on child abuse and how the United States can better prevent child abuse. So we wanted to ask, what's your opinion? What do you think the United States can do to better prevent child abuse?
All right. Child abuse. Let's start by prevent. There's different stages of it.
Yeah.
Okay. You got the prevention part, which is obviously to prevent the child abuse. Then you have the people who've been child abused already, who've been abused. So you have the kids who've been abused. Preventative child abuse, and you know it's difficult in the families because kids aren't going to come forward a lot because they're scared and they're nervous. So a lot of it's going to be up to, depending on the age, if they're a little older, what are you guys, how old are you guys?
I'm 15.
15, well 10, say 12, and they start talking to their friends, and their friends find out, it's important for the friends, maybe to bring them to an adult's attention. Just say if you know a friend, or you suspect one of your friends is being abused, it's better for you to either come to the school, tell one of your teachers if he goes to the same school, or maybe tell your parents, or maybe the principal at the school, whoever an adult is that you think is responsible enough to deal with the situation, who will take it seriously.
Yeah.
All right? That's one thing, to spot it. Once you spot it, you gotta address it immediately. You can't let it go on if it's suspected. The second part you can also go is preventative. If you know that someone has a history of abusing kids, just say a mother, a father, or an uncle, a family member. I mean, it could be a brother too, abusing a little kid. He's older, It's important that that person, I don't want to see be taken away from the person because I know they still love each other, but they need help. Depending on the severity of the child abuse. If it's minor, maybe get them into counseling, get everything corrected before you bring them back to the scene, or you bring them back, or you introduce them back to the kid's life, depending on the severity of it. If it's too severe, unfortunately you're gonna have to separate that person for quite a long time from the kids until that person is able to control his anger or deal with his own issues. But also a lot of the preventative child abuse, a lot of it stems from what, guys? What do you think it is? The parents or what? Yeah, what do you think causes the child abuse at home?
Sometimes, for me, it wasn't my mom abusing us, it was her boyfriend.
Right.
And my mom allowed it because sometimes they brainwash, the person.
That's right.
He told my mom it was okay, and, that's how it started.
Right. You got drugs involved, you got alcohol involved, you got stresses, and you got money issues, and a lot of people don't know how to control those issues, and they tend to snap more easy, and their nerves are on edge, so they tend to associate that as taking out the anger on the person who's around them.
Right.
And that could be child, could be a kid, or it could be an adult also in a domestic abuse case. So that's one also you have to try to prevent, is the alcoholism, the stress, and the drug abuse. And that's going to get counseling also to the adults that are involved in this.
Do you think after they even get help with their addictions or if their anger management and they still abuse their child or they still abuse their partner, do you think after that, do you think they should just be separated and taken away?
That's a tough question now, because like I said, depending on the degree. Do I think personally? Yes. Not taken away completely if you got kids involved, but they shouldn't be allowed to be near that person unsupervised with someone that's trusted. Okay? You don't want to tear the whole family completely apart from it.
Right.
But you also can't trust that person to do the right thing. By themselves. So that's why you need someone who's going to be able to, that you can trust, or the child can trust, to feel safe around, to have supervised visits with that person. I mean, and that's if you feel that person is, what's the word I want to use here? If that person that you can trust that person, or if the child isn't scared of that person even being near them. Now, if the person's completely scared to be near them, you can't put them nowhere near them.
Right.
Okay? Like I said, it depended on the severity of the child abuse. Okay? That's what it comes down to. But you can't leave that person unsupervised if there's an allegation of child abuse, even as you go through the system.
Do you think, like, religious-wise, it's okay? Like how, like, what were we all talking about, like, Officer Peterson?
His culture.
His culture, like, hitting his child with this branch?
Yeah.
Hitting his child, like, do you think it's okay? Because in his religious prospect, like, it's okay to hit children like that?
That's in the state of Texas. That's not in the state of Rhode Island. That's not allowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, but even when you're talking about hitting someone with a whip or with a stick or something,
It's social media.
right, even though the person might have grew up in that kind of a culture, it's not okay. Okay, it's not okay. They might have grew up that way and that's the way they think, they're brought up, but that's still,
They should know, like, not
well,
to.
they gotta, like, that's where the education comes in. Everybody is brought up in different generations. Like, I'm brought up in a different generation than you guys are. He was brought up in a different generation than me. Maybe not as much, because our years aren't that different. But with education, that's what we're talking about, education preventative. You've gotta put it out there to the parents, what's acceptable and not acceptable when it comes to disciplining your kids. Like, that's accepted. I'm not saying it's accepted. I don't know how it is down south or what his culture was. You guys talking about Adrian Peterson, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I believe he was thinking that he was raised that way.
Right.
So he felt that was the right thing to do.
Do you think, like, a child who's been abused, like, they should get help so they don't repeat the cycle when they grow up and they have kids? Like,
All day long.
yeah.
Yeah, you gotta get counseling to the person. Now, you're dependent on the person's personality too.
Right.
Some kids are stronger mentally and physically that can handle it better by themselves. Some can't, and some kids need counseling to help them get through it. You know what I mean? If you've been abused repeatedly every day, every single day, or once a week, twice a week, that person's definitely gonna need counseling.
You don't know. He mentioned if it was alcohol or drugs, but you don't know if it's like a chemical imbalance where maybe somebody's a little slow, right?
Right.
Like they have
Mental
some mental
deficiencies.
deficiencies also could be one of them.
And you want to stop it quick. Like, I may yell at you. What happens if I yell at you? What's the next step?
You can
And then if I hit you, what's the next step after that? I hit you with,
something, whatever object you find, or
right?
Right.
So you want to stop it right
So you wanna break the cycle as soon as it happens.
quick.
Okay. Richard, what do you have?
Nothing.
Why not?
No, we're not.
It basically sums it all up.
Does it? How
Ask
about
any
you,
question.
Brandon? Anthony, behind the camera, buddy, what do you have?
Let's see. Have you ever dealt with a case of child abuse?
Yes, I've dealt with child abuse kids before. I've done both, the extremes and also the minor ones, okay? Where someone will call you, the kid will come home, and he'll call the police on the parents, because he's acting up, and he gets a little spanking on the butt, and he'll call, and he'll say that the parents beat him, this and that, but he got a little spanking on the butt. That's called corporal punishment, which is a lot in Rhode Island. But then you got the extreme cases where you go and you see like belt marks on them, you know, kids have fractured skulls. Okay, now that's the extreme. Those are the extreme cases.
Is that DCYF? Is that when DCYF walks in?
That's when we have to notify DCYF, correct?
And then you have the ones that are just made up because maybe the boyfriend or the mom or dad have a different boyfriend or girlfriend, and they don't like how all the attention's going that way, so they call and say that mom or dad's been hitting them.
Or that person's got a girlfriend or boyfriend the mom and dad don't approve of, and they start making allegations against the parents. So there's a lot to it.
Yeah.
But you just have to kind of try to sort it out and see what the truth is in between everything. And then you take the proper steps to go up there.
Different ages in the kids is different investigations.
So now, what's the maximum punishment or jail time a person can get for abusing a child? Depending, like, on a case, like, if it's a minor case, like, what's the punishment?
Well, that's up to the judge.
That's up to the judge.
It's up to,
First degree, isn't
it's first degree and second degree.
That's it. First and second.
Second degree, you got the 25 and up.
What about assault? Like maybe a
What's
child.
that?
Assault?
On a
He's,
child?
he basically assaulted a child, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's a
Child.
second degree.
Yeah.
That's a second degree. And that's like minor
10,
injuries.
right, Under 10.
That's like minor
So
injuries.
It
It's like if
depends
you,
on like the injuries, like.
there you go, depending on the injury and the severity of it. And also, if they can prove that it's a consistent, it's not a one-time event, and they can prove it's like it's a series of events, like they've been doing it for a year, they've been doing it for like 3 months, or this is a one-time incident where he lost control, the parents, so it's dependent on, it's all variations. It's not just one, it's tough to say, I hit my kid and I leave a mark, okay, I get 5 years in jail. Okay, it can't, because if that's my second or third offense, I might get more. For my first offense, I'm gonna get less.
Now, do you think if a parent abused their child and won their child back, do you think they should like earn their child by doing some classes like maybe anger management or like I think there's like parenting classes before they even take the next step to getting the child back or children?
Yes.
Like Rhode Island, you have to take them steps anyways.
Yeah.
So whether it be through, it's not called, it's at the courthouse where they do where the parents will meet with a mediator and they meet with the kid, and then they'll gradually go into that process for full custody.
Yeah, well, basically what that does is it assures that the safety of the kid and assures that the parent or the abuser earns his trust and also is able to control themselves, and that can take a long time
Right.
before they let you do that. Like I said, that's gonna be like supervised visitations.
Right.
They'll start it and then they'll go by supervised until everybody feels comfortable around it, and that's when that happens.
Now, you're talking about a lot of the violence aspects of child abuse. Before, when you asked about child abuse as a whole,
Yeah.
there's other aspects of child abuse that we don't even talk about.
Like,
That's like mallet, that's like me, or like us making a mistake doing something with kids in the car, say driving drunk and getting into an accident.
Yeah.
You know, because we put the kids at risk, and
that's a different type of child.
that's that's a whole, you
That's-
mentioned child abuse,
That's child neglect, you got a whole different.
that's under that.
And if you kill one of your children, wouldn't that be like manslaughter or something like that?
Oh, it's gonna be murder.
You watch too much
Dependent.
TV though,
Yeah,
you watch too much
No,
TV.
we learn in social studies, right?
yeah, it could be, dependent on the situation, how
Like
the,
you kill someone, like you really mean to murder them.
right.
You know?
But the child abuse thing is very big, it's not just
It's like,
narrow.
you're talking about, I know what you're saying, if you're going from, if you put your child at risk,
Big field.
They don't mean to.
but yeah, if you don't mean to, but here's the difference now. If you're drinking and you take your son in the car or your child and you get into an accident, that's not manslaughter, because what they're thinking is, you should have known that when you were drinking, so it doesn't go manslaughter, Sean.
So you know what you're doing when you're drinking.
Well,
You just can't.
no, before, when you start drinking, you know you have the intention of getting in that car. And if you have your child with you, okay, that's a little different than manslaughter. There's all different degrees of it. There's no set answer. Every circumstance is different. It's like anything else. You just don't have one answer for everything. It's all dependent on circumstances. Rich.
Oh, we're coming up in June, so July 4th weekend's coming up. What happens if I light fireworks and it hits a kid?
You know what I mean? He didn't think, now that's something like, he had no intentions of hurting, or he had no,
But
Could have been in the morning. Could have been anything actually.
it can, but it's a big field, it's a very big
Yeah.
field.
but Rich, what he's gonna basically tell you, no incident's the same. You've gotta take each one separately, and you gotta look at all the facts around it, or what led up to what happened. And that's how you deal with it.
I think that's well, right?